All right, I think we'll make a start. So, thanks for joining me today. For our Perth people, it's 8:30 a.m., so I have a strong coffee. Everyone else, I guess it's a little bit later. I think over East it's a public holiday, which is cool. Um, so yeah, thanks for taking the time, guys. Really appreciate it, and very excited to meet you all. I've known Brandon for quite some time, and I've seen the growth of this organization with Where You and the With You program. So the fact that so many of you are joining me, a completely random person on a Monday morning, shows me that he's doing something right, and that's awesome. So we're going to be talking about AI today. There's a few things that we're going to cover. My goal is to just do a presentation for about 45 minutes and then leave 15 minutes at the end for any questions that you might have. I'm in the school community as well, and you can reach me there, and I got my email at the end as well. So yeah, just kind of sit back, relax, and see if you can absorb as much of the information as possible. I probably won't be monitoring the chat that closely until the end. So I do ask that you leave questions till the end. And please put yourselves on mute just in case we get that feedback audio in the presentation. Okay, so the title of today's presentation is Implementing AI in Your Marketing Operations Without Losing Your Mind. So I guess in an attempt to make this as accessible as possible, noting, of course, that people have various levels of skill and knowledge about AI. I've just decided to give my insights as to what I think business owners should be focusing on when it comes to AI generally. It's not a super specific presentation, but we will get into some specific examples as we proceed. So, I will tell you a little bit about what we've done at Where Are You. So, I run a company called Zenius, and as I mentioned, Brandon is a friend of mine. He's brought my business on to do a few things. We've been there for 2 months. On the 13th of June, it will be the start of our third month, and we've moved very quickly. We built an entire enterprise level commission and sales tracker for them. It automatically tracks every single sale that the sales reps make, converts them into a commission claim. It captures every edge case end to end and assists with accounting and finance reporting obligations. We've also built a fully integrated Go High level AI employee called Cassie. And Cassie is their appointment setter. It's integrated end to end with Go High level. It can literally control Go High level. You can message her on iMessage or Slack or WhatsApp or email, and she can go do things inside Go High level. Every single time someone comes through the landing page and they don't book a sales call, she will detect it. She will reach out to them. She'll research their business. She'll have a really human, organic conversation with them. She has full access to all of the sales reps' calendars, and then she can go and book that lead into a calendar with a rep for a closing call. We've also built a recruitment app. Obviously, Brandon's expanding, wants to move over east, all that jazz. There's a lot of people who apply for jobs. I discovered recently that there's some program called Job Seeker, and people have to apply for X amount of jobs to satisfy that requirement for welfare. So it seems like everyone's getting overwhelmed by job applications. This will scan every single application against really rigorous internal criteria and categorize them from the best candidate to the worst candidate, just to put it in layman's terms. And then we also have the new version of Brandon. Not sure if you guys have used Brandon before, but that's launching this week. So quite a lot of work in 2 months, but all successful outcomes. Probably at least, and this is a very conservative number, at least save them 30 hours a week, which if you think about it from a billable hour perspective is significant. Um, and they've also reduced their headcount, which is a massive saving for any business. We've managed to reduce the headcount with these tools. And what I thought upon reflection of these is, well, each of these touch upon various pillars of any business. So that's what I want to talk about. So my name is Marshay Bantam. For those of you who are still joining, there's still some people waiting to be admitted. I run a company called Zenius. We are an AI studio. We do training and development. We do workshops very similar to Brandon. We do app development for AI. We also do strategy, consulting, and governance. I'm actually a lawyer by trade. I've been practicing for almost 8 years, which is kind of spooky. But I've worked in legal technology for quite some time at the Big Four, and private and in public. And AI is something I'm very passionate about. And I decided to strike out on my own and build this organization to help business owners like yourself implement AI. So today, I want to talk about what to ignore in the AI conversation, what to actually pay attention to, because there's a lot of noise out there. I want to give you five key skills that will move the needle, not just a bunch of random SaaS tools. I want to show you how you can think about applying them in your marketing and operations starting as early as today or this week. And then where I think the AI industry is heading, and then what matters for your business based on that forecasted trajectory. So, a great test that I like to apply is called the mute test. And it basically says if removing it from your feed costs you nothing in real outcomes, then it's noise. So, we really want to isolate the signal from the noise. And I'm sure everybody knows there is a lot of noise when it comes to AI. So, number one, cutting through the noise, what to ignore, what to pay attention to, and the single test that decides which is which. So, you've probably felt overwhelmed by a lot of AI content. It's probably because most of it is noise. AI is going to revolutionize your business. Simon Beard's out there with 20 Mac Minis saying, this one's my CEO, this one's my COO, it runs my whole business, and I get to sip margaritas in the Maldives and do absolutely nothing because this AI is doing everything for me. That's noise. A bunch of demos of agents on YouTube, X, TikTok, Instagram, whatever. That's noise. A bunch of prompt packs and tools that you can get from a Dropbox link from some random AI influencer. That's also probably noise. A bunch of AI wrapper SaaS. SaaS means software as a service, where they basically route ChatGPT into a front end with a few extra buttons and charge you $100 a month when you could just pay zero for ChatGPT to do the same thing. That's also noise. There's also a tribalism growing around different tools, which is just classic because human beings are so predictable, aren't they? No, I use Claude. No, I use ChatGPT. Doesn't matter. That's noise as well. There's also this AGI doomerism, right? AI will replace you content. That's pretty spooky, not very useful. It's noise. On the flip side, AI is a bubble. There's no point using it. There's no point investing. It's going to burst and it's going to be a waste of your time and money. That's also noise. So then where is the signal? This is what you should be paying attention to, in my opinion, right? So these are things that I think are genuinely worth keeping abreast of as the market evolves. First one is model capability jumps. It's a free market. Free market economics dictate that there will be competition which breeds innovation with these tools. So it's best to keep across broadly what the capabilities are of these new tools as they are released or updated, right? So these are things like increased context window, which I'll talk about in a moment. Multimodal means a AI can ingest different kinds of sources. It can do things like look at video and audio and images and text, and then different kinds of reasoning and depths of reasoning as well. These are things which change what is possible with the tool. Workflow patterns shared by operators who actually ship. This is the second thing I think you should pay attention to. So these are like the recipes, and we're going to be diving into what a workflow is today. But you'll see that if you have a bit of a keen eye, there are some very interesting tools and developers like my company or otherwise who will develop a workflow to achieve just one outcome, one very specific task. And that's something worth paying attention to because you can adopt it into your business. Your own data. That's something you really should be paying attention to. And I suggest starting right now, today, if you haven't already, starting to consolidate your data. Many of you have been running businesses for years and years. It might be really annoying, but you might have to go back and see as far as you can go back and consolidate as much of your data as possible. Emails, messages, invoices, trends, anything. See if we can get into one spot. And then finally, the shift, which is AI released with ChatGPT, chat box you can type something into, input, output. Now we're moving into agents and automations. And now I think in the future, right now, probably starting now and onwards, we're going to be moving into a brand new echelon of AI, which is assistants, like Cassie, for example, the bot that we built for Brandon, right? She's an employee. That's not ChatGPT. Okay, let's move on. So, another interesting quote. If you only learn tools, you're obsolete in 18 months. If you learn skills, you're sharper forever. That's that age-old adage of, teach someone to fish and they'll eat for a lifetime. If you learn the fundamental skills that underpin any kind of AI, well, then you are AI mature and market ready as it continues to evolve. So this brings me to segment number two, which is the five skills that I think matter. And these are prompt engineering, context engineering, file structure and evaluation, and workflow design. We'll talk about each of these separately. So these are tool agnostic. Doesn't mean you need to rely on ChatGPT or Claude. These are skills that you can apply to any AI and get value out of it. It's funny, I was with a friend the other day and uh, he has a little brother. And I was talking to the little brother, he's like 19. And I mentioned MySpace. He looked at me with a blank look, like, what the hell is MySpace? And it was the first time I felt like significantly old. And then I remember thinking back in the day, man, like 97, Yahoo was the thing. Maybe if anybody here born in the 70s or 80s will remember, I wasn't born then, but I just love tech, right? Yahoo was the thing. Where's Yahoo now, right? ChatGPT could be the Yahoo of our time, where we think it is the pinnacle of tech innovation. And in 30 years, it's like, oh, I remember ChatGPT. Oh, that was so long ago. You never know what's going to happen to these tools or these platforms, which is why the fundamental skills is what is worth cultivating because it's not dependent on a particular platform. The first skill is prompt engineering. Now, how you ask determines what you get. So a prompt is not a wish, it's a brief. And if you wouldn't hand it to a freelancer, if you wouldn't hand it to a subcontractor, then you probably should reconsider if you're handing it to your AI. So, what is prompt engineering? We all know what a prompt is, right? That's the thing that you write into ChatGPT, you press enter, and then something comes out. Now, it's a machine, so there's better ways to use it than others. Now, there's four levers that you can pull when engineering your prompt. The first is the role. So if you want it to give you advice on ads, don't just say, I want advice on ads. Give it a role. You are a meta ad specialist with 10 years experience, etc. Lever two is the task. So you give it an explicit, scoped verb, with particular verbs, actions. I want you to write this. I want you to analyze this. I want you to summarize this, not help me with this or what is that. Lever three is examples. Show it some things that you really like. Don't just tell it. I actually make a habit now of every time I see something that I'm like, oh, I reckon I could steal with that with AI, I'll just screenshot it, right? If you see an ad on Meta, you're like, oh, I really like that copy. I really like the design of that creative. Screenshot it. And then who knows? 2 months later, you might pull it out, give it to ChatGPT or whatever tool you use as a specific example of what you're trying to achieve. That's lever three. Level four is format. So what is the output you're looking for? How do you want it to be presented to you? Do you want it as a table? Do you want it as a graph? Do you want it as a prose text? Do you want it with a certain length or a certain tone? Is it going to a certain audience? These are all levers that you can pull when engineering a prompt. Now, here's what to avoid when doing prompts. One-line prompts. I know it's so easy. We all want to be lazy. I hate capitalism too. It overworks all of us. Unfortunately, we can't just go to ChatGPT and say, do this and expect a good outcome, right? Also, vague success criteria is something you should avoid as well. Make it good, make it punchy, or the classic, make no mistakes. People always say that to AI. You need to tell it what success is. You need to tell it what not to do. So I want to do this, but don't do this, this, and this. Another thing to avoid is not giving it examples or not any constraints. And then finally, asking for everything in one go. Now, it depends what you're looking for. If you want a small task, you can probably ask it in one go, but there's also a phased approach that we can apply. So, two prompts that completely change the game. I use this all the time. The first one is to get AI to ask you questions back, particularly when I know I have a malformed idea in my head. I've got a concept, but it's not turned into something that I'm clear on. I'll tell AI, I want you to ask me questions over and over again until you have 98% understanding of exactly what I want, and then I want you to go perform that task. And then I want you to go create that ad copy. Then I want you to go create that creative. So that's the first one. Power move number one, get AI to ask you questions back. Number two is ask AI to write your prompt. This is called meta prompting. So I will, enter ChatGPT and say, okay, your task is to write me a prompt to give to another AI to perform this task. So now my current task with that AI is getting it to write a prompt for another AI. Because what better articulator of the ability to get an AI to do things than AI itself? I think 80% of people don't do this. And if you do it immediately, you will unlock so much power in AI. So remember, a prompt is a brief, not a wish. I don't know if anybody has seen that movie Obsession, but beware of wishes. Okay, skill number two. This is context engineering. So we've just done prompt engineering. Now we're doing context engineering. So you can't out prompt your competitor because you don't know what they're doing. But you can out context them. So what does context mean? Context is yours. It's your brand voice. It's previous ads that you've ran that have converted lots and lots and lots of people. It's customer reviews for your business. It's your particular offer and your point of difference and your pricing. It's transcripts from your sales calls. It's your past emails. It's all of your data. And as I mentioned, it's good to start casting the net back as far as possible and collating all your data because that is context that you can use as part of the engineering for your AI solution. The model is rented, right? But the context is owned. So a vanilla prompt, anyone can do it, right? You, your competitor, say you're a plumber, there's a million plumbers, all of you can do a vanilla prompt. But a context loaded prompt with the information to your business, that's uniquely yours, and you will get a unique and bespoke output if you use that context. Skill number three is file structure and format. So if you have a good structured input, you have a good structured output. If you feed AI a wall of text, you'll probably get back a wall of text. You need to scaffold the input, and the model will follow the shape that you give it. Now, these are actual file formats-esque that I really, really recommend investigating. Like I said, not sure what the technical understanding of everybody is on this call. There's 62 people here, but some of you may know this, some of you may not. The first one is a markdown file, .md. This is basically the lightest weight text file you can get. If you think of something like a PDF, right? Sometimes there's PDF that are 50 megabytes. It's a big file. There's lots and lots of data in there, lots of colors, fonts, graphics, tables, etc. A markdown file is the complete opposite of a PDF. It is just raw text data, which means it can be read and understood by an AI much quicker. I convert most of my things into markdown files before I give it to an AI, and the responses are much better. The next is a thing called a HTML. So this is a lightweight graphic file format where you can create presentations like this. You can see as I scroll through, things animate. I've got this nice little 3 at the top here. There's nice colored fonts. This is a HTML file. This is not a PowerPoint presentation. Everything you're looking at right now is HTML. I knocked it out in like an hour yesterday. It's fantastic for client presentations, investor presentations. Most websites you'll find on the internet are HTML as well. So that's a great file format to get your head around. HTML is also really, really good for structured data, for anything that AI has to map, it has to sort, or it has to transform mathematically or deterministically. PDF. So these are also good in some instances as well, especially for large pieces of information. There's a thing called a PRD, which I'll talk about in a moment. This stands for Product Requirements Documentation. This is a format that AI loves. It's like giving candy to it. It's a document which explains everything you're trying to achieve, what the requirements are, and what the ideal outcome is. If you give a PRD to an AI, that is a level up from a really well-engineered prompt. And then the final format is scaffolded text. So this is given the model skeleton. You can give it tables, lists, things that organize data. If you think about an AI, like I mentioned, as like an assistant, like a subcontractor, an external provider. Imagine if you emailed an external provider and you just said, "Here's everything." It's just this data dump of a bunch of random unorganized stuff. Well, they're going to have to spend a lot more time sorting it. So if you do some of the organization for your AI, not only will the output be better, but it will be quicker as well. So let's talk about PRDs. This is something I really want you to remember. So PRDs are prompt requirement documentation. So any non-trivial prompt, so any task that requires quite a degree of output, quite a degree of sophistication, you want to write a PRD. So if you're building a website, you want a PRD. If you're trying to construct an automation, you want a PRD. If you're building an app, you want a PRD. Now, PRD is a product requirements documentation is exactly that. It's what is the final version of this product and what are the requirements of that product. You can break it up into different bits. Sometimes you only need one PRD. Sometimes you need multiple. For the apps we've been building for Brandon and Where You, each project had quite a lot of PRDs. We'd have one which represents its final state, i.e., when this app is in production, it's being used by his team, what is it? And what are the requirements of it? Then we'll have a PRD just for the backend. How are people going to sign in? What happens if they need to change their password? Then we have one for the database. How is all the data stored? Is it secure? Who can query it? Maybe Brandon has better permissions than one of the sales reps. How do we map that out at a database level? What's the requirements of that component? Then we'll have a PRD for the front end. What's the user experience? Where are the buttons? What are the pages? What happens when you click this? What happens when you click that? What kind of information is being surfaced? What information is not being surfaced? We have multiple PRDs for one product. You give those to AI, it can then start building it in phases, knock it out quicker, and with far less mistakes. Now, if you attach a PRD as context, again, looping back to context engineering, the output quality jumps significantly. So, what to avoid when it comes to this skill, file management? You can paste screenshots, but depending on your model, you'll get mixed results. I try and avoid pasting screenshots. The other is to ask AI to infer what you mean. So if you don't know exactly what you want, it's better to get it to ask you questions than to guess. And finally, wall of text input often breeds wall of text output unless you apply the prompt engineering principles and you specify the output format that you want it in. Okay, number 4, if you can't tell when AI is bad, you'll publish bad AI. It's funny, the ability of human beings to identify the uncanny valley never fails to to blow my mind. AI is new, and we can already tell when something is made by AI. Even people who've never created a video with AI can tell it's made by AI. Even people who sparingly use AI to create copy or write emails or write posts can still kind of tell it's made by AI. We can tell. The uncanny valley is so strong. Maybe it's because we evolved with giants and lizard people throughout our early evolution. I don't know. But we're able to identify when something is non-human, right? Now, most failed AI experiments aren't bad prompts. They are just shipped slop. And the owner, the person who drove this, couldn't really tell what's good and what's good enough for AI. So this is evaluation. This is the fourth skill. So AI slop looks like this. Bland and vague openers like in today's fast-paced world, or are you struggling with this? Empty corporate adjectives like innovative, robust, seamless, cutting edge. M dashes, you can see them there in the example. It's funny, I actually use M dashes all a lot in my normal writing, and now I have to deliberately take them out because people think it's AI. Fake confidence and invented studies with no citations. That's a big one. No brand voice as well, meaning it could have been written for any business in your industry. And also the AI tells like the 3 list items. So it's not this and not this, it's this. That kind of cadence is typical of AI. Now, if your customer can spot it's AI, you've lost their trust. So when it comes to marketing and operations, putting your brand voice in there and really vetting the output is integral to cutting through all that noise and allowing your end user, your customer, whomever you're communicating to really dial in on the signal. These are 3 tests that you can apply before you ship to make sure it's not sloppy. The billboard test. Would you put it on a billboard on the freeway with your name on it? If no, then you should rewrite it. The smart customer test. Would you send this to your best and sharpest and most intelligent, sophisticated customer? If no, Maybe you should consider rewriting it. And then the mute test. Would anyone actually notice if this disappeared from the world? If no, then you might want to rewrite it as well because it's not very compelling, particularly when it comes to ad copy. Now, building taste is important. Getting your data sorted, looking at your best ads, looking at emails you're really proud of, looking at posts before judging AI output is really important because you have something to compare it against. If you can't really see what's missing or what's lacking, then you don't have much of a baseline. You should create a file or a folder with things that you think are great. Examples of other people, examples of your own, copy, design, anything that makes you stop scrolling and you think is compelling. And then maybe even save a this is slop file, things that are not good. And again, we want to try and put guardrails on AI and tell it what not to do. So if you can give an example of, I want you to do something like this, but avoid something like that, the output's going to be more what you're looking for. Okay, the fifth and final skill, workflow design. So one prompt is a hack and a chain is a symptom. A symptom, a system. So the biggest unlock is not a better prompt, it's breaking the job into different steps that the AI can execute programmatically. How do we do this? Well, each step will be its own prompt. Now, you want to research and gather your evidence. You then want to do a first draft, a quality check. Then you want to critique it in a fresh chat, maybe get that fresh chat to do an adversarial read. Tell me everything that's wrong with it. Tell me everything that's weak. Tell me everything I can do better. Then you revise, apply the critique, tighten it, sharpen it, cut it, and then you ship it. Rather than saying, make this, it spits it out, looks good enough, post. That's how you get into the AI slop arena. Now, chains beat mega prompts because each step is debuggable. You can vet it, right? You can see its reasoning. You can get it to vet and cross-check, and it just gives you a bit more scope to be able to refine things. Each step is even improvable. And once we start looking at automations and workflows, each step is also automatable, right? So we go back. You can automate the research and give it constraints as to what topics to research and what forms to pull the information from. You can then automate the drafting process. You can bake in your tone, your voice, your brand documents, and it can automate every single draft based off the previously automated research in your voice. Then you can automate the critique and give the critiquing workflow a particular role. And then it will ensure that the guardrails you want for your critique are applied every single time instead of you having to re-prompt it every single time you're performing this task. Then you can have a revision automation that cuts things down, puts it in a word count, and then a shipping automation which goes and passes it online, posts it somewhere, sends a newsletter to all your users, something like that. We can chain all of them together, give each step in the workflow automation its own role, its own tool set, and then we'll funnel it up into one interface. You click run, and what it's doing is it's running 5 different workflow automations and presenting one ultimate output. So once you've manually run a chain 3 times, you realize maybe an assistant should be running this for me. I'm not sure how many people here have played with automations and workflows or built their own, but eventually it gets kind of annoying having to re-prompt ChatGPT or whatever over and over again, the 11th time you've tried to achieve the same task. Particularly for you guys who are doing, you're joining Where Are You because you want to do marketing, and ad management, Google Meta ads, etc. It's time to start putting together your own particular workflows that write ad copy, that make your creatives, that make your newsletters, rather than relying on a lengthy ChatGPT chat or a folder that does it for you over and over again. Cool. So I'm going to show you an example of some good prompts and some bad prompts, right? Because prompt engineering is something that I think a lot of people miss and really should focus on. So the first one is a one-liner, right? Write me ad copy from my landscaping business. This is quite generic. What does that even mean? Then the second one is maybe a bit more deliberate, right? Write me ad copy from my landscaping business. I'm in Perth trying to get inquiries on my page. And then you can run it through, say, a prompt enhancer, or you can meta prompt within, say, for example, ChatGPT, Claude, or something. Like I mentioned before, you will enter the chat and say, your job is to write me a prompt that I'm going to give to another AI or another chat. Now, I'll just stop sharing my screen here for a second, and I'll show you a prompt enhancer that I have built. Let's see. Okay. So I'm not sure how clearly you can see this. Maybe I can zoom in a little bit. But this is something that, in the workshops that my business runs, we get everybody to make one of these because it's a prompt machine, right? Prompting is fundamental to AI. Meta prompting is really, really good, but a prompt machine is better because you can tailor it to your business, right? So in here, you have your original prompt, and then you can enhance it and get an enhanced prompt. And you can build these tuning settings around your business. So the specificity from low, medium, and high, the length from concise, balanced, and comprehensive, the tone from neutral, technical, creative, the audience, beginner, expert. You can add structure, you can make it include examples, you can make it include a chain of thought. You can also add presets based on the subject area. So say we go to marketing for you guys. What's the format? Is it a social post? Is it an email? Is it a landing page? Is it a campaign brief? How much conversion pressure are we putting on the viewer? Do we want it direct? Do we want it soft? What's the brand voice? Plain, distinctive, bold? Do you want the tone to be creative or technical? Is the audience beginner or expert, et cetera, et cetera? So we look at an example I did the other day. The original prompt was make me a social post about optimizing AI. The enhanced prompt is create a compelling social media post about optimizing AI for a marketing audience. Write a polished, conversion-focused post that makes AI feel practical, valuable, and worth acting on. Who is the audience? Assume the reader is broadly capable business owner, marketer, or a team lead who's interested in using AI better. Here are the key messages. Here's the tone and style. Here's the deliverable. A strong main social post around 100 to 150 words. 3 alternative headlines or opening hook options. 3 call to action options, such as DM for me for examples, comment AI for a checklist, or book a call to improve your workflow, right? This is a 47x increase. We've turned 8 words into 376 words, and it doesn't take a genius to realize that if you give AI this enhanced prompt, the output will be far superior than if you just said, make me a social post about optimizing AI, right? Prompting is so, so important. Now we can reconfigure these prompt machines based on your business. So as I mentioned in the beginning of the call, I'm a lawyer. So I have prompts for legal. What's the matter tie? Is it contract, property? How risky is it? What's the authority? How formal is the drafting? We could do one for HR. Are we writing a policy? Are we looking at performance? Are we looking at hiring? Are we looking at employee comms? All that kind of stuff, right? So you can make one for your business. So every time you want to make a prompt to AI to do something for your business, you got toggles, you got examples, you got history there that you can leverage, right? And this is an extremely, extremely easy and simple tool to build. This can take you like a couple hours to build this. But the result is 10x what you would if you just prompted every single time. Okay. So how do you apply all this? What do you actually do? Okay, so we've talked about AI, we talked about prompting. Now let's dive into automations a little bit. Now, this is what I call the automation audit. And these are key pillars of a business that usually people will hand off to AI. So the first are revenue creating tasks. These are things like sales calls, building creative assets, pitching new clients. These are things that generate revenue broadly. The second is where judgment or human intuition is required. Strategy decisions for your commercial trajectory of a business, hiring calls, brand calls. And then the third is the repeatable middle, kind of sits between the revenue creating and the judgment required. So these are things like drafting things, writing copy, writing things down, right? Summarizing things, triaging things, quality checking things, analyzing data, reporting, etc. That is where you should be building workflow automations. With the revenue creating column, you can augment it with AI, but you want the human in the loop. You don't want an AI on the other end of a sales call. They can't build that relationship with the customer. You can. But an AI can research the business or the person on the other end of the call and write call preparation notes for you. That's what Cassie does. She warms up all these leads. She books them into the calendar of the sales reps at Where You, and she'll write them a call prep note. This is Sally. She runs this business in this area. Maybe Cassie has asked Sally some questions in the back-to-back conversations, the back and forth conversations, and there's some gold in there that's surfaced to the sales rep to enhance the human touch. Now, when it comes to the judgment required column, okay, maybe you can use AI to help consolidate your strategy or draft your strategy down for a presentation, put it into a HTML, right, for a presentation to your staff, but the decision should be made by a person. So column 3 is really where you should be focusing on applying AI. In the context of marketing, because I want to make it relevant to why you guys are here, obviously you've all joined the Where You program. Let's think about things that you can start doing this week. So add creative variants at scale. So you want to lock in your brand voice. Give it creative examples that you have seen result in conversions. Give it examples of things that didn't work. Lock that in, put it into a project file, and then generate batches of ad creative. One thing that my business partner Quincy taught me, who I think is actually on this call, is to look on Pinterest and just type in Instagram ad, social post, and you'll find a bunch of really, really, really good examples. Screenshot the ones you like, give it to Claude, give it to ChatGPT and say, hey, can you remake this, but in my brand voice, in the style of my business? Stuff like that. The second is customer insight and competitor analysis. So one of the automations that I have running is every single day, my personal assistant AI, his name is Baze, every single day, I think at like 3 a.m. when I'm asleep, he will go and scrape the web for all the competitors in my business locally and in other states and present me a report as to what everyone's doing. And it's not just like, oh, this competitor appeared overnight. It's what are the posts they've made on social media? How many clicks did they get? What's the analytic conversion? What is working? What isn't? What are some new trends in AI that I can optimize into posts? And on the same day, every single morning, he'll surface ideas for me and say, hey, I found that, for example, Microsoft just announced a new suite of AI tools. I've drafted a post that you can put on social media. I'll review it. I'll say, change this, change that, post. He'll go and post it on my Instagram page. I don't have to think about it. He literally does it overnight in the cloud for me. This is what your competitors are doing. So you owe it to yourself to start doing it for your business right now. The third thing that you can do this week is create more landing pages and more blog content. Another automation I have is scheduled blogs for SEO. It will find a trend, for example, like the federal budget. That's the news right now. It's pumping the algorithm. There's so much noise online about this new budget from Albanese and Co., right? You can create an automation that finds trends. The budget is one of many examples. Writes a blog post, post it on your website. So when people Google the budget, there's a chance of your website being listed for some reason on Google and people can find you. New customers can find you. Email sequences derived from your sales calls, transcripts in your voice. And the more that these become scheduled and the more that these become automated, the closer you are to having an assistant, not just an AI tool. That's marketing. You can apply some things to your operations as well for this week. Inbox triage, first draft replies, plug an assistant into your inbox, get it to prioritize important to less important and pre-draft replies for you that you can just say, yep, that looks good, send. It just takes the thinking out of it, takes the admin out of it. You can spend more time on revenue creating activities and less times reviewing your email or thinking how you're going to reply because a pre-drafted reply is there for you. A weekly report summarization, give it your raw numbers and a written executive brief or a spreadsheet or table out. Lead qualification from form submissions scored against your ICP, right? Cassie, the bot that we built for Brandon, is directly integrated with the landing page form, and she can see every single person that fills out that landing page, and she can start spotting trends. Say, hey, Brandon, we're seeing an uptake in the amount of people from this industry coming through your landing page. Maybe you should consider making ads or creatives that target that industry. Stuff like that, right? Again, that's augmenting the data rather than putting the burden on you, but you also save time. Just being conscious of time myself here. Now, the trap is don't try and do everything. Don't try and automate everything I just said at once. Pick one column, 3 tasks this week, and see if you can automate it. See if you can apply these rules and these skills to it. Run it manually yourself until you're happy with the output, and then apply the 5 skills and chain it together into an automation at the end. So what I will do actually is just go back to column 3 if you want to take a little screenshot. These are the things in the repeatable middle that I think you should start doing this week, right? What do you sit back and think, okay, what am I writing? What am I writing each week? Am I writing emails internally? Am I writing emails externally? Am I writing ad copy? What am I summarizing in my head? What am I triaging and delegating? What am I qualifying and checking? And what am I reporting on? Write it down physically, write it in your notes, and then start doing some research as to how AI can automate that task for you in your business. Okay, so where is this heading? I'm just going to give you some thoughts on the AI industry as a whole. Now, it started as ChatGPT. We all know what that is. We all use it, I'm sure. Then we started moving to agents, automations, like the ones I just described. A scheduled task in the cloud, scans things, reports it to me in the morning, or the 5-step automation for creating ad copy. Now we're moving to assistants. These are things like the Cassie bot for Brandon or my own personal assistant. This is where I genuinely think the market is going, and I think it's really worth getting ahead now before inevitably you get swamped by this stuff in the future. And what does it mean for your business? So chat, you ask it, it answers. One prompt at a time, everything is in the chat window. Agents are goal-driven, multi-step, but constrained workflows. You set one objective, you create one workflow, you run it, the workflow will run, the objective will be produced. It's a constrained, isolated system. Assistants are a persistent, contextual, ever-evolving, ever-learning, multi-domain interface. It can interface with your personal life. It can interface with your professional and your business life. It can interface with other people in your life or externally. It knows you, it learns with you, it grows with you and your business and your tools, and it runs alongside you. This is where AI is going. A great example of that, again, is Cassie, right? They've saved dozens and dozens and dozens of hours per week, increased their conversions, and reduced their headcount with one assistant. You cannot achieve that with a chat. You cannot achieve that with a workflow automation or an agent. So at Zenius, we have our own agent framework called Mariah, M-R-I-A. Stands for Multi-Resident Intelligent Assistant. Multi-resident means it can reside in multiple different areas. So I have one that that bot called Baze. It's a Mariah system. She can interface with my mom and dad. They can text her and ask how I'm going and maybe book in a coffee if I'm busy. Can interface with my business partner. Can interface with my consumers. Multi-resident. She's across my internal finance, plugged into all my spreadsheets. She's plugged into my Instagram page, plugged into multi-different tenants in one system, orchestrating it, remembering it, spotting trends, growing, learning alongside me. It knows, it runs, it talks, it learns your context, it runs your workflows. It's the one that sits above the workflow that I described already. It talks to your tools. It can present insights, sales, operations, support, marketing, etc. One orchestrator has 4 different hats, and this allows for infinite amounts of reach. So Mariah, who I call Baze, Brandon's version is called Cassie, my business partner, Quincy, his is named Donna, and you can have yours as well. And you can construct different hats that the system can orchestrate. The first one for me is lead and sales. So pipeline qualification, following up and lead nurturing with people who are interested in working with me. The second is content and marketing, scraping for trends, creating draft newsletters every morning, creating draft posts every single morning, scheduling it and posting it online. The third is a personal assistant. My agent Baze has full access to all my inboxes, my calendar, my drafting, can recall things, can prioritize things, can pre-draft responses for me. And then the final is operations and observability. So I've actually created another hat whose job is to watch the other three hats and look for enhancement and improvement opportunities. It audits their inputs and outputs to make sure there's no bugs, and then it can go do the debugging for me and then report back to me on anything that it thinks requires my human review and sign off. This is literally an employee. People pay employees $100,000 a year to do this. Mariah runs 24/7 in the cloud. She booked in someone with a Where You sales call at 1:27 a.m. this morning. A human can't do that. And I don't have to pay it superannuation, and it doesn't take leave. This is where the industry is going. I firmly believe every single person is going to have their own AI employee, their own personal assistant that's going to interface directly with their business, interface directly with their life, and provide meaningful gains year after year. So we've kind of talked about this, but as a summary, Mariah isn't just another agent. It's a multi-resident agent. It can orchestrate different forms. It's got hat level isolation. Each hat has its own tools, its own guardrails, so nothing collides. It's got a persistent agentic memory stored locally on my machine, so it can't be hacked. It learns and it grows. You stay driving, and it works while you sleep. I mean, this is infinite value, right? Now, SaaS, you may have heard of, software as a service. I'm thinking this is a spicy take, so take it with a grain of salt, is probably on the way out, because I can look at someone's little SaaS product now for that $50 a month and go, I can build that, particularly if I have it like a Mariah assistant, right? So it's kind of like the dinosaur and the meteor slowly coming down to explode the earth. And SaaS is taking its last roar right now. And a lot of people are selling vibe-coded SaaS products to people who don't know any better. But the workflow layer is dying. Obviously, the workflow layer, like the automation, the wrapper of ChatGPT or whatever, anybody can remake that these days. But the data that's yours, that's where the gold is. And you're giving your data to these providers, and they probably sell it. You tick the terms and conditions. You didn't read it. Nobody reads it, but they're probably taking your data and selling it. That's how they make their money, because that's where the value is. That's where the money is. So collating your data and applying these systems to your own data means you'll get the same value for free. Now, agents will eat the middle, like the Mariah system that I built. Great example, again, is the Cassie bot for Where You. These are custom built, fully integrated things that eat what would otherwise be a product by a SaaS provider. We call it agents as a service, otherwise known as AaaS, which is so fun to say. Now, what does this mean for your business? 2 to 3 years, you won't be paying $200 a month for 7 different tools that each do one workflow. You'll have one assistant doing all of it for you, trained on you. The operators practicing the 5 skills that I presented to you earlier on in this business will be AI ready and AI mature. The ones who aren't will probably be paying someone like me to catch them up. And the ones who start right now today and start building their own automations and constructing their own AI assistants and AI employees will have an incredible edge when eventually, particularly in Australia, which is usually a couple of years behind, they finally come around to this idea of like, oh, mate, I saw my friend, he's got an AI bot, bro. I need one of those, right? You can get one right now. They exist right now. Okay, so I'm going to give you a task for this week, and I'm going to think about doing it. And you can, message me on school and tell me how it went. I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to figure out where you can improve and what the result was. So, one actionable step. Again, this is the column 3. Think about what you're drafting, what you summarize, what you triage, what you qualify, what you report on. Run an audit, pick one task, apply the 5 skills that we talked about, and then see if you can ship it by Friday. You don't need to build a workflow automation, but see if you can get a perfect output for one of those items in the column 3, and then lock it in, and then I can talk to you and show you how to then spin that into some kind of automation or workflow. It's worth noting, I'm starting my advisory calls this week. So Tuesdays, 3:30 p.m. Perth time, I'll be doing advisory calls. We can even talk about it then if you like. Okay, we got 10 minutes for questions.